Yo, what's cracking, guys? Faison here, and today we have the long-awaited Adignister deck profile with my boy Dusk. We got top four at Pack and Farfa's Master Duel tourney from like 10 years ago, but I swear the meta has not really changed enough. Where I think this deck is like still quite good. But yeah, Dusk, take it away. What are you thinking about this deck? Why'd you decide to take it to the tournament?
All right, so I decided to take this deck to the tournament just because it's a really strong deck in general, and it's also rogue. So whenever a deck's rogue, mainly people don't know like how to counter it or like what to hit. So that's always nice. So you have people hitting the link one, not knowing that you have more gas to come because you have like four cards in hand. Um, they that's the main reason. Just people don't really know what to hit. It's super consistent. You always open like usually two hand traps in a one card combo because you play like 12 ways in this deck to getting to that. So that's yeah, I would say that's probably why.
All right, makes sense. Overall, it's been a while, but how did you feel about like the matchups, like broadly?
I I don't remember it too well, but I think my only real challenges I had through that tournament was against Drytron and Eldritch. Every other deck really, I could just try moving through all their stuff or breaking through all their stuff by just going one card combo, and then they have to use their resources to break my stuff, or I can open two hand traps and just stop them completely. But against decks like Eldritch and Drytron, for example, Eldritch, if they just set five and they flip skill drain, most likely I just lost that unless I happen to have Feather Duster. So I mean, like I don't really have to go into too much detail why that's a bad matchup. Um, and then Drytron is just you know orange light cycle back with the Eva gets kind of crazy.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right into the list. You played the one Hiyari. If you want, as we're going through it, just kind of give like a brief like what this
Right.
does.
Yeah. So Hayari, uh, it's just an extender in the deck. It's a searchable extender. Um, and I know a lot of people when they play Identisters, they don't play this card, which I feel like is a mistake. I feel like this card's really, really strong, mostly because the other alternative is you play Doshin, which is very similar. The upside of Doshin is you can search it off of I Met You, which I'll get to later. But when you can't really do that with Hayari. But the thing is, you can search Hayari off of Achichi and Silent Mining, obviously. And Hayari also has the ability in most decks to use a second effect, unlike Doshin, to search for a level 5 or higher Agnister. Um, and then
Which
I'll
would get
go
you Denmari or Gachiri, I assume.
right. You usually would then search for Gachiri here, just because um, Gachiri has a really nice field effect of just being able to protect all your monsters. Or I think it's Cyber's monsters. Yeah, each Cyber's monster. The first time they would be destroyed by card effect, they are not. Which comes up a lot when you try to play against Eldritch when they're cock pops. Um, or just a lot of decks that do a lot of destruction effects. It's really good for that. And on top of that, you can for example, Gachiri came up in some ways where I make access code using Gachiri, and I go chain one Gachiri, chain two access code, and they can't respond. And because Gachiri targets any monster on my field when it leaves the field and just makes it unaffected, I now have a potentially 5,300 attack access code that is now at towers for my turn and then the end of my opponent's turn.
Yeah,
So
that makes a lot
it's
of
a
sense.
really good option for just going for game or for sometimes just having something that they can't really get past.
All right, for sure. So moving on, we have the three Mexi, obviously. The three Achichi, that's going to be your monster searcher.
Right.
The three Ash, the two Baruru. So talk about this.
Okay, so Tubaruru, honestly, you can do two, you can do one. I just like having the option of seeing at least one name because for example, if you were to break or whatever, you can open Baruru and just normal it, special it, whatever. Send at least like Damn Mario out of hand so you don't top deck that. Send Gachiri to grave, and then you might open your one of two Idle Reborns. You can't really do like the most if your starting play is only Baruru, but if you have Baruru and something else, you can at least end on something decent. You won't end on towers usually, but you'll still end on decent enough
Like
to
something
survive the
playable.
next turn. Right. So you just don't die.
All right, that makes
Um,
sense.
so that's really the only reason.
All right, we have the 3 Picari, that's your spell searcher, and the 1 Doyon.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. Doyon's really just a one of you run just because he recycles all your stuff, like all your spells, all your monsters, anything you want to like keep on having in your deck or your hand. Um, he'll just get you to it.
Makes sense. You've got the 1 Danmari, that's going to be your negate. The Gachiri we already talked about. The 1 Nibiru, I assume this is just so you can draw it when they take the Max C challenge.
Exactly. That's exactly why.
The 1 Duster, 1 Terraforming, 3 Signet Mining, just super generic. The 1 Eye Contact. So how are you liking this at 1? Like, it is a +3, but searchable, I guess, so... What's the...
Yeah, so you only played the one eye contact because, well, first of all, you just only play this card because it has the ability to cycle consistently, and you always are able to draw three most of the times when this resolves because they usually probably hand trap something before for Ash. Like if you baited a Chi-Chi, they probably already ashed that. Or you baited a silent mining, they probably already ashed that. So you can do like you can get crazy plus when this actually resolves. Obviously, it's a draw three. So, but you only play it at one because it is a draw three, but it does require significant setup. You need to have a field spell on field, right, and then a field spell in hand.
Yeah.
So unless you open the eye contact or you open the field spell, you're not really able to get into the draw three. And also sometimes the draw three is just a risky play in the first place because let's say you search for the eye contact off Picari, just because you thought the draw three would be good. Because the draw three would be good and get you to what you need to get. But if you were to search for I met you, that just guaranteed searches you for what you need as opposed to
Yeah.
just
Rather
blank.
than just random stuff. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Got the 2 Tactics. So how do you feel about Tactics versus, like, Crossout, for example?
So crossout, I am not like the biggest fan of just because this deck is a rogue deck, and a lot of the cards you play aren't like very generic. So crossout would only come up in the turn you're going first,
Mm-hmm.
and not like if you had crossout going second, it literally does nothing. I mean, like I guess you could cross out Ash, but at that point they might have an established board and it means nothing. I'd rather have tactics there. So if I go first or second, say I get hit with Nib, or I get hit with some hand trap that I could have crossed out, I just accept the fact that I got hit with it, and then I go tactics, look at their hand, take one, leaving them with only 4 cards going second against me, and I could potentially have like 2 hand traps. I could set a imperm. I could have a droplet. They're not usually going to be able to play through that.
Yeah.
And plus, going second with tactics almost is free wins. Like it's tactics is such a nuts card um, that I just feel like with people playing a lot of hand traps, you just want to play it.
Yeah, makes sense. We've got the 3 I Met You, the 3 Field Spell, the 2 Called By, the 2 Idle Reborn. So why are you playing this at only 2 instead of the 3?
So I'm playing Idle Reborn at 2 just because I've never really needed 3. And I mean, it's another searchable card. I feel like if a card's searchable, you don't really need it at that high of a value. And also, it's like one of the cards you don't really want to. see in an opening hand all the time.
Hmm.
Because if you open two Outer Reborns, you can only activate it once per turn. And in your normal combo with Doyon, you might even like cycle it back. So it's like playing three just seems a little unnecessary.
Alrighty, makes sense. And then rounding it out, we have the two droplets and three imperm for the main deck. Let's go ahead and get into the extra. You're playing the one Wind Pegasus, the one Light Dragon. How often does this actually come up?
Okay, so Light Dragon surprisingly comes up pretty often after you already gone for your access code play. Um, so first of all, you play all these like Agnisters in the extra deck just for the searchable ability of I met you because you need to reveal something with 23 100 attack to add one of the same element Agnister from deck. So that's one reason why you play Light Dragon. It just helps you search for Picari.
Oh, that makes sense.
And on top of that, like I was saying earlier, if access code isn't available, Light Dragon's like almost a Nespex thing because it has the same like pop effect of access code. Like you can just pop monsters up to the number of Agnisters you control, which you can sometimes end with like three Agnisters. It includes itself too. So that's like three pops. And then on top of that, you can actually let's say like you already used your access code, you can swing with another Cybers while Light Dragon's on the field to then grab your access code or any Cybers monster from grave, which is or sorry, not Cybers, any Link monster from grave.
Oh, gotcha. That makes sense.
Which yeah, it's just a really strong power play. It also is protection from destruction, so like it does a lot. Um, so yeah, that's why I play that one.
Gotcha. Moving on, we have the one Linguribo, the two Dark Infant, one Security Dragon, one Cybers Wicked, one Update Jammer, two Splash Mage, one Transcode, one Dark Templar, one Fire Phoenix, one Access Code, and the one Arrival Cybers. I feel like this is like a pretty standard extra deck. Is there any consideration to play a second Access Code?
So the second access code, I feel like it is not like a bad option for sure. Um, it's just the deck is already so tight. I just like having more options. And like usually, if you're going for the access code play, you're pretty certain that you have it.
Mhm.
So like having two access code isn't. I'm not gonna say it's bad, but it isn't really necessary. If you play I'm not gonna like say like if you play smart as opposed to, like you play two, you're playing dumb. But if you're playing your cards right and you're just kind of like always being cautious of what your opponent's hand is looking like, how many cards they have in hand, what's the field presence looking like, um, you should be able to just like use your one access code and probably go for game.
All right, for
Um,
sure. That makes sense.
and then one thing I wanted to talk about with
Yep.
the extra deck, Lean Karibo. Lean Karibo is a card that not everyone plays. Some people would play Link Spider instead, just as a card if they got nibbed. It's just another Link one in general. But I highly recommend playing Link Karibo just because if you ever get against a trap matchup and you open field spell, you can like wipe their entire stuff. You just go normal summon any Agnister, right? Link into Link Karibo, and they'll be like very shocked because they're expecting Dark Infant, and you don't even need Dark Infant because you already had the field spell. And then you just do your full combo like normal while you have a trap negate up for
Yeah.
almost free. So highly recommend playing that card if you're not already playing that in your list, or at least to consider.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess the last question before we wrap it up: how do you feel the deck is changing with the release of like Sword Soul and Despia into Master Duel?
Okay, so I've been playing this deck in TCG for a long time, so I'm used to playing against Sword Soul and Despia. I can play a little Despia myself, and I have to say this deck probably has one of the best matchups against both of them. because, well, first I'll start with Sorcel. Sorcel, um, they really don't end on too much that like would scare you. They usually would have a blackout set. Um, they have the Shisha for the monster negate, and maybe another link monster or something. You can
Or
really just
Syncrobit, yep.
blow. Yeah, sorry, but you can really just blow them out with two hand traps, or even just saving a hand trap like imperm for your turn, hitting the Shisha, turning that thing off completely, and then like I was just talking about Ling Karibo, if they have that blackout set, you just normal summon, then link immediately into Ling Karibo. Blackout no longer matters, because they couldn't activate it earlier. They need exactly two monsters on or two cards on field, right, to even
Mm-hmm.
resolve blackout. So if you just go immediately into Ling Karibo with that trap negate, you only have one monster during all that. You can then just go full combo. Don't have to worry about the trap. They flip the trap, it just gets banished anyway. And it's a pretty nice matchup, honestly. Most of the times I win against that deck. You just gotta watch out for back row, but that's not really a big deal.
Yeah.
And then for Despia, Despia really doesn't do too much. If they end on double masquerade and you don't have any way to like negate their effects with like a droplet or an imperm, that's kind of rough. But I would say for the most part, the matchup isn't that bad. There's nothing that they do to out towers. I guess that's another thing I should talk about. Towers. Um, Sorcel can't out it. Despia can't really out it unless they're playing the Biru. But that's if they get the structure deck, which they don't. So they can't even really out the towers here in Master Duel.
Yeah,
So
he means using Branded Fusion to summon the Titaniclad with Nibiru.
right. So essentially, if you make towers against both those decks, you just kind of auto win, unless they in Sorcel they can potentially make what's the water one called?
Oh, Cheng.
Yeah, they can Paw Desires with Ching Ying, and then they can get over 4K, but you make 6K. You make 6K against most decks, you just win. 4K against most decks, you win. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the matchup.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest strengths just comes from like being in a best of one format. People are just not going to set up optimally for you, and so like
Right.
if they aren't ready for it, you're going to set up like some huge shit on them, and they just can't get over it. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess that's all the questions I had. Thanks for your time, Dusk. Do you have any shout outs to give?
Shout outs to my boy Dom from Dreadnought, and I guess make sure that you guys like and subscribe to this channel.
Yeah, for sure. I'll leave Dusk's Twitch as well as Dom's YouTube in the description. And yeah, make sure you guys just leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what we're doing right and wrong around here, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.